Hi everyone and welcome to another video. Beautiful sunny day in London, but it's end of September and today I want to talk about preparing for the winter riding. So thanks to these incredible facilities that we have, we recreated a bit of the ambience of what is going to happen in a few weeks, especially here in London, where the weather is known to have the odd shower now and then. So we need to get the bike prepared for the winter and ourselves at the very best for all the occasions. But I want to give you some tips of what I learned last year. That was my first winter riding for the whole year. I will want to start from the very front. The tyres were my first concern. When I got the Merida, they had Maxxis Dolomites. They came with a bike. I rode with them for a few months. I was happy with them until I got into the winter seasons. Roads in the winter get extremely dirty. Glasses on the road, especially after the weekend. I was getting punctured from the Dolomites or Dolomites every other day because the tires were very soft, a little bit worn, shadow glass, small metal pieces, and I'd been late to work 2 or 3 days in a row and I decided to get something different. In this case I got Continental Gato skins that are extremely tough, very good winter tire. They say they are the most popular tires in the entire UK, and I guess I can understand why, because they are extremely durable, quite hard wearing, not maybe the most comfortable tires to ride, because when I got them after using the GP 5000 on my Canyon, I could feel the difference. These are quite harder, stiffer, but I never had a puncture during the whole winter time. My recommendation in this instance is first of all to check the correct pressure. I'm quite heavy, I'm 85 to 86 kilos. I ride with 100 psi front and rear, and I always use a gauge. This is an SKS gauge to make sure that the pressure is correct, because the normal truck pumps are very erratic in the readings, so always make sure that you use one of these. Second recommendation is on the valves, and this is another element that I learned, and I almost got stranded at one time because of the removable core on some Presta valve. If you're running Continental in a tube especially, they do have a removable core, and when they come from new, sometimes the core is not actually tightened that well. So if you do carry spare, make sure that the core is quite tightened up, and also the one you ride, because depending on the mini pump that you use, if you do have one of those pumps with the removable hose, like my Lesign pump, you might end up removing the core when you remove the pump. This is incredibly frustrating because you have managed to pump up your tire, you take the pump off, all the air comes out together with the core. So make sure that you don't do this mistake. You either carry a tool to tighten valve here, or you use a mini tool, one of those small gaps that can tighten your core. Pro tip: if you're stranded and you can't get the pump out without removing the core, try to tighten the core with your hand. Put some grease from your chain onto the thread or the valve, apply your pump, and when you remove the pump, the grease will make your pump slide off without removing the whole core. After looking at the tires and making sure that I could run on decent tire for the whole winter season, I look at the lights. Of course, being seen at night is extremely important. You don't need a huge power to actually see the road, because in the city there's enough light from the street lights or the other cars, but you need to be seen, and this is an element that is extremely important. I do have a Cat-Eye Amp 400, very solid light, very good battery, but main important tip for me is making sure that you do have a nice light sequence or flashing mode that enables both to be seen and not to disappear between the flashing strobes. I do prefer this kind of sequence in the light, where you do have the attention grabbing of the flashing, but still you do have a steady lighting that is not going to lose track of your pattern where you're moving. This kind of lighting is ideal maybe for the daylight, where you can grab the attention, but not at night, because I have to say, even for me, when I see other riders, I struggle to follow them, especially if they're moving faster between a strobe or the other. Steady light, of course, is quite good. The only drawback that the battery drains quite fast. If you ride longer distance, put this into the account, and you might need to charge your batteries more often. Some riders prefer to ride two lights when you do have a strobe and a fixed light. That is another very good option. At the rear, I do have a design strip. This comes with an incredible array of strobes. I found this one quite good. At the back, you don't really need to have a constant light all the time, but you need the attention grabbing. That's maybe more important. Some options are like this, dedicated on daytime, where there was very, very strong strobe coming out. This is supposed to be used in bright light. I've seen riders using the daylight at night. I have to say it emits a strong flash that is uncomfortable for the other road users. So personally, I might not recommend this mode in the night. I don't mind using the Canyon in the winter, but I do check regularly the weather report. This is of course the basis of winter riding, where at night I decide what to wear the following day based on the forecast on the next day. And there are some apps that you can use. I use personally the BBC Weather, and also another app that is extremely good. When it's wet, or it's going to be wet in the afternoon, I ride the Merida. It's got disc brakes. They are definitely much better in the wet, and at the end of the day, disc brakes are much safer in this situation. When it's maybe cold but it's going to stay dry, I don't mind using the Canyon for my commute. An important element of making sure that the bike is always in the best possible condition is to take care of your headset. Now you might have seen a lot of videos about adjusting the headset and how important it is. It's not that easy to understand when your headset is loose. Because what I found out that the usual method of grabbing the brake and rocking the bike when you're on the bike, sometimes it doesn't give you the feeling of a loose headset unless it's too loose already, and you might end up being too late in adjusting the headset. The idea here is to prevent riding with the headset too loose before it becomes too loose, because you don't want to end up ruining your carbon steerer, and as soon as it gets to the point that needs to be adjusted, act on that. I found that the best method for me is to test the bike when I'm on the bike and I'm riding slower on a downhill on a loose cobblestone type road, where you have all your weight on the bike, you are slowly braking, but the surface of the road is moving, and you will feel definitely if the headset is too loose. The key here is to loose the stem bolt here and tighten this bolt up there, where the movement of the steering is loose enough but not too loose. Once you are happy with that, you retighten the bolt on the stem, making sure that you use a torque wrench. Moving on the maintenance of the bike, regular cleaning is essential. You will end up with everything very, very dirty. Well, mine is already a bit dirty. What I do use, of course, is a wet lube. Top tip here is don't put too much, because it is a very sticky lubricant, and it will end up, if it's too much, grabbing road grit and eventually ruin your gear. Once you applied, wipe it off, the excess, and that would be really the best situation. To clean the chain, two tips extremely useful are those rollers that help cleaning the chain. I do have the Pack Tool one, very good. I leave the chain on the bike. This is a 9-speed, it's fitted with a pin, so it's not easy to remove, and it's quite good to clean the chain while it's on there. And another very useful tool is a fake hub. With this one you can remove your wheel, apply it to the chain, clean the chain while it's there. You can rotate and move it while you can clean the wheel separately. This is the fake hub once fitted, extremely useful. You can rotate, everything stays in place, you can work on the derailleur if needed, and is such a useful piece of kit. For the rain, I don't have particular equipment on the bike. I have a small ass saver here to avoid a bit of spray at the back. Saddlebag is against the rules, but to me is an essential piece of kit. I always carry two spare tubes there. I don't want to be stranded. I'm commuting every day. It happened many times that I had to change a tube. If I only had one, riding again in a difficult condition, knowing that something else might happen, is not nice. And also, even if you are very experienced, you might end up ruining the tube. Also, I had to lend a tube to someone that was stranded because he had the wrong replacement one. And in terms of the bike, there's not much more. Good lights, as we mentioned, strong tires, making sure that the bike is functional. Very important to keep the headset tightened. Chain lubricated with wet lube, of course, not too much to attract too much of a road grit. And a small ass saver for me is all I need. Starting from the extremities is incredibly important that your feet and your hands are warm and not wet, because eventually a ride where your hands are freezing and your feet are soaking wet is going to be a terrible ride. Starting from the hands, good gloves are readily available. I was quite lucky with this Endura waterproof. They are quite good, reasonably warm. I never felt the need of anything warmer. When it was really cold, I tried also to add plastic gloves and then the main gloves. In extreme situation, I saw this tip somewhere and I copied, and it actually worked. Usually I just wear the gloves. Very cold, maybe you want to add the plastic gloves as a further layer to insulate your hands. But maybe even more important is to protect your feet. So first of all, you do need a good pair of shoe cover. There are a lot of shoe covers in the market. Some are thinner, some are thicker. Some are actually not advised as waterproof, but only for cold ride. My suggestion is to look for the ones are declared waterproof, because you might have the best chance to actually keep your feet dry. I tried some that were quite thin and feet were soaking wet after a short ride, completely useless to me. These ones I found from BBB, they are extremely good and they served me well for the last winter. The only damage in the whole year I had is on the heels. Nothing really that stopped the use of the shoe cover. The zip is usually one of the weakest points on the shoe covers. This is from YKK and perform really well, and they are very good. The problem is with every shoe cover is when you put them on, the water will seep through your leg and through the calf here. What I've seen, very few riders use this, but I found this extremely important, to add a gaiter on top of the shoe cover to prevent water flooding into your shoes. This to me is a lifesaver, perform extremely well. When rain is expected, I always carry both. And in this instance, I'm also wearing the 3/4 leggings. They're very useful, especially to leave a bit of flesh where the gaiter can seal even better to your leg. Shoes, of course, are taped with electric tape for the winter, not to get water through the opening holes of the shoes. You get the gaiter first, then the shoe cover, then the shoe. Once the shoe cover in place, you roll up the gaiter and that forms quite a nice seal on your calf. That is the best situation, even for heavy rain that I endured. Your shoe internally might become a bit moist, but definitely you won't have water running through, seeping through the ankle. My other recommendation for winter riding is a aerodynamic helmet. By the nature of these helmets, they are close and very helpful for keeping the warmth on your head and at the same time helping with rain not coming down straight on your head. I always wear a skull cap as well to cover the ears for the cold, but I found out that these helmets are extremely useful for avoiding the rain coming down. And this one also got a little bit of cover for your forehead. Is good to prevent water running down in the face. And of course you need something to protect you from the rain. When it's just drizzly, you could get away with something like a windbreaker, where you don't need really much on the back, but you do have on the arm a very light one. When it's pouring down rain, this one won't cut it, but you need a proper rain jacket. This one is quite good. It's from Tucano, which is usually that's the accessory for motorbikes and scooters. At one stage they came out with a bicycle line. I can't see this anymore on the website. As you know, there are a lot of other brands that do extremely good rain jacket. Gore is maybe the most famous one. They're very expensive. What you pay for is the fit and also the material, because the worst thing that happens when you ride under the rain, that your waterproof garment will get you very sweaty underneath, and of course you might end up being wet because of your sweat, not because the garment let water pouring in. These are my recommendations for the winter. Nothing exceptional, but a few tips here and there that I wish they might help you out in your winter riding. Let me know your experience. I really enjoy exchanging messages with you. I try to respond to all the comments. Thank you so much for your subscription. That means a lot to me, and see you to the next video. Ciao.